So, part one, look at what Frank says. These are indirect questions. How does the word order change? First, look at the left column. These are the things that Frank wants to know. What Frank wants to know, this is from page 86, the bottom of the page. He wants to know, could you help me? So here is what Frank says. For the question, could you help me? Frank says, I wonder if you could help me. For question 2, are we near the CN Tower? He says, I'm not sure if we're near the CN Tower. And for the third question that Frank wants to know, are there any good restaurants nearby? Look at what Frank says. He says, can you tell me if there are any good restaurants nearby? So, how does the word order change? We've learned that in questions, we say the auxiliary, then the subject, then the main verb. Could you help, for example. But in an indirect question, we do not change the order of the words from a positive sentence. So we say the subject, then the auxiliary, then the main verb. You could help me. I wonder if you could help me. Again, are we near the CN Tower? Notice this one is just the verb to be in the present simple. And when we have the verb to be in present simple and a subject, for the kind of question you studied in elementary English, we would say, are we? Are we near the CN Tower? Remember that for a positive sentence we say, we are near the CN Tower. We follow the same order of the words for a positive sentence when we make this an indirect question. I'm not sure if we're near the CN Tower. Again, we are, of course. Number 3, are there? Are there, we change to there are, as in a positive sentence. Are there any good restaurants nearby? Can you tell me if there are any good restaurants nearby? So, at the elementary level, you have studied how the order of words changes for a question. In an indirect question, we use the same word order for subject, auxiliary, if we have an auxiliary, and then verb, for an indirect question that we use for a positive sentence. Here we have an example in past in number 5. I'm sorry, but I can't remember which restaurant you suggested, but the same rule applies. We use the word order of a sentence in past simple. So again, for an indirect question, the word order is the same as for a positive sentence. Now, part 2, what happens to do, does, did in indirect questions? Let's look at 2 examples. From number 4, from the exercise at the bottom of page 86, we see the question, what time do the banks close? To say this as a statement of an indirect question, I don't know what time the banks close. Notice, again, we have the word order of a positive sentence. The banks, subject, close, verb in present simple. Which restaurant did you suggest? Again, now we're looking at past simple. The indirect question, I can't remember which restaurant you suggested. Again, you suggested the word order of a positive sentence. Remember that we use do, does, or did for questions and for negative sentences. So, note bene, note well, we do not use do, does, did in indirect questions. Question 3, when do we use if in indirect questions? Notice these examples. Could you help me? We change this to, I wonder if you could help me. Are we near the CN Tower? I'm not sure if we're near the CN Tower. Are there any good restaurants nearby? Can you tell me if there are any good restaurants nearby? Notice the original question in 1, 2, and 3. What kind of questions are these? Notice they're all yes-no questions. If someone says, could you help me? It's possible to answer with yes or no. The same is true for, are we near the CN Tower? And for, are there any good restaurants nearby? We can say yes, there are, or no, there aren't. Notice, we use if in indirect questions when there is no question word. These questions don't have when, where, how, who, what, why. And so instead of a question word, we say if. I wonder if. I'm not sure if. Can you tell me if? So we say these, we say if when we are expressing yes, no questions indirectly as indirect questions. Now, where can you go for help if you need more help with indirect questions? Well, of course, Grammar Reference 11.1, the first grammar reference for Unit 11, that's in the student's book on page 149.